Right, so I'm a lifelong, absolutely lifelong film fan. My earliest memory is actually seeing Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. A re-release, I should be clear, a re-release, and I've got kind of like a little bit of a funny story about that, if that's okay. So I took part in a colouring competition in my local newspaper in Manchester, down in England, and you know, you kind of like, there's a scene from the film and you colour it in, and I won the under fives category for this. So I won, and the prize was tickets to see the film, taxi to the middle of town with my grandmother, who'd, you know, she'd posted the competition to me, posted the competition off, and I'd won. And that's my earliest film memory, and that's kind of, that began my love of film. The classic film geek thing, and perhaps you did this too, was to create a paper diary of the films that you've seen, and I'd kind of like write in, and my paper diary lasted all of 2 weeks, because I thought, well, why put it in a paper diary when I can put it in a database, and you know, I can search it and run reports and things like that. So incredibly geeky beginnings. And so on the 17th of October 1990, I published the first version of the database, and that allowed you to install the software locally and search the directors and actors, actresses, dead actresses files on your own system. Wasn't a problem, because back in those days, if you were online, you probably understood how to do that. So kind of like, it was, you know, although it sounds technical and complicated, everyone was technical and complicated on the internet in those days. A week later, get an email to kind of like provide this service, because there's still at this time there was no World Wide Web and there was no commercial use of the internet. So it's kind of like I've heard it described as the internet stone age kind of thing. So we had like primitive tools and nobody really knew what to do or where things were going. But we always wanted to make the content available to as many people as we could in as many different ways as we could. So different services kind of started up back in those days, and I guess beginning of 95.
Okay.
And the web really started to take off back then for kind of like those of you can remember, you know, I think that was about the time .NET magazine launched in the UK. The BBC ran that series all about the internet and kind of like informing people of, you know, what was going on. And so we found that the amount of traffic every 2 weeks was doubling, and then it would double again, and then it would double again, and it was just not slowing down at all. And of course, because again we relied on users of the site to add information, the amount of data that was coming in was also doubling every 2 weeks. Okay. And the amount of server space that we required at all of these different university web servers around the world, that was doubling every 2 weeks. And it was getting crazier and crazier. And I've got a great kind of like little bit of a story. I got home from work one day, because again, this is all still volunteer, and my wife said, the New York Times have just called. They want to talk to you about the website. And it's kind of like, wow. So we launched. So we launched IMDb.com in time for the Oscars in 1996. We did the classic startup thing. So we bought our first web server on a credit card. One of our guys was based in Wisconsin in the US. We sent him along to his local internet service provider to see if they would host our web servers in exchange for promotion on the homepage, thus proving that nobody knew how much money was being made, because our very first deal was a barter deal. Yeah. And it's a good mix, because we still have and we still depend on the worldwide audience of film fans everywhere, and you know, several 100,000 people submitted data to us in 2010 still. But equally, we get a nice mix of publicists and agents and production companies and the people themselves also sending the information in. So it's a very nice blend.